Hey, listen, we are actually in the green on the S&P year to date, guys. Woo-ha.
Uh-oh, cue Alex.
Barely. 1.2%, guys. We're barely there. We rolled over a touch into the close.
Look, I think that's fair to say, and we're still down from those all-time highs that were reached back in February. So, yes, it has been a wild last couple of weeks. But, yeah, like Carol said, pretty much flat on the S&P 500.
Green is green, I'm just going to say.
Green is green for now. Not a whole lot of move in Treasuries. So you look at yields, they're just a touch higher, but barely moving. So it's an interesting dichotomy here.
You got the VIX tamped down. I guess that's a good sign. At one point, it was down below 18. Looks like that's where it's going to settle here on the day. Volatility on the bond market, believe it or not, that's actually picked up. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how all of this sort of fits together. Green across the screen. Let me rephrase that. Green on parts of the screen here on this Tuesday afternoon. You can see there on the left, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to close in the red, down about 300 points or about 0.6%. A part of that is the big drag from United Health on the day and some of the other healthcare stocks in that average. The S&P 500, though, is going to close out the day in the green, higher by 0.7%. It's going to close just below that 5,900 level that we have been keeping an eye on, but it is going to close out the day with a year-to-date gain of just about 0.1%. The NASDAQ composite up about 300 points at 1.6%. Similar move for the NASDAQ 100, which is now in the green on a year-to-date basis. And the Russell 2000 getting in on the action, higher by about 0.5% on the day.
S&P up 0.08%, Alex, year to date.
Okay. We made it. A win's a win. I'm just saying.
S&P 500, guys, kind of an even split-ish. 244 names, Scarlet, to the upside in the S&P 500, 257 to the downside.
Yeah, you can kind of see that reflected in the IMAP as well, which is pretty much mixed down the board. But of course, the biggest sectors, which is tech, consumer discretionary, they have the biggest gains. So as a whole, obviously there's a lot more green. Tech up about 2.25%, consumer discretionary gaining 1.4%. Energy also getting a bit of a revival here as oil prices continue to recover. They're up 1.3%. The laggards on the day, healthcare down almost 3% as a group.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers and check it out because some of them kind of hitting significant milestones to some extent. Let's go to Coinbase because its shares, they are up almost 24% here in today's session. We know what the news is.
You can round that up. It's 23.97, Carol.
I said 24%. Okay. All right, so a big gain. This company's going to join the S&P 500. That'll happen on May 19th, kind of making it legitimate. I don't know. We had a big conversation about crypto kind of going into its legitimate phase because it just seems that way. S&P 500. Hey, folks, if you're in an index fund, you now will start to own a piece of crypto if you didn't before. Anyway, Coinbase, best day since the presidential election. So that was definitely some outperformance there. Another one, First Solar. I've been looking at the alt energy space in a big way. First Solar, guys, up 22% in the past 5 days. This stock is up about 50%, rounding it up for you, Romaine.
Thank you.
Up about 50% in the past 5 days. So it has been on a tear. This one having its biggest gain in 2 years. A couple things going on. JP Morgan coming out saying the U.S. budget reconciliation bill better than the more bullish end of investor expectations for solar, for wind and geothermal firms. Also, you had Wolf Research coming out, upgrading the stock to outperform and announcing a $221 a share price target. Stock closing at $191 and change. So really some outperformance. And one more for you, Super Micro. It's up 16% in today's session. Raymond James initiating coverage on the firm with an outperform, saying it has emerged as a market leader in AI-optimized infrastructure. And the analyst also saying Super Micro has positioned itself in a sweet spot between branded IT suppliers such as Dell and contract manufacturers like Quanta. Price target set at 41. They say the share is undervalued. Stock closing at $38.89, so almost $39 a share.
Okay, you had the easy job with the gainers. Certainly, there were some prominent decliners today. I do want to start with United Health Group. Shares dragging the Dow down today. Shares falling 17.8%. Closing at the lowest going back to February of 2021. This brings the decline from its record down 50%. The company did fall after it replaced its CEO, Andrew Whitty, with a former CEO, Stephen Hemsley. It also suspended earnings guidance and cited unexpected medical costs and challenges with its Medicare strategy. The company's stock down about 40% so far this year. It also revised its forecast and it raised questions about its ability to anticipate and manage patients' expenses, despite its size and Reach. Hertz on my radar today. Shares falling about 17%. This after the company posted a larger than expected loss in the first quarter. It was driven by a slowdown in customer bookings and a 13% revenue decline. Shares are up close to 60% so far this year. Just a reminder, Pershing Square Capital Management of Bill Ackman has amassed a nearly 20% stake in Hertz, in a part that's a bet that tariffs will drive up the value of Hertz's fleet. Once again, shares falling today by about 17%. And this is an interesting one. IGT US, International Game Technology, they make slot machines and other gambling tech. It's about a $3.3 billion market cap company out of Providence. Shares fell about 10% today, as much earlier in the session, about 15%. This after the company said its full year revenue will be at the lower end of previously issued guidance.
All right, let's go quickly to the bond market here. Not a lot happened, but what didn't happen was also quite interesting. We hit that 4% level on the 2-year, and it stayed right there, despite the fact that we got a weaker than expected CPI, which in theory could be good news, right? If inflation's less of a problem, maybe the Fed can actually cut. One would have thought that maybe yields would be lower. I also want to highlight the dollar, the Bloomberg Dollar Index, guys, jumping a full 1 percentage point. That's the biggest jump since April 11th, so right around the walk back from Liberation Day.
I just want to point out, too, when we talk about just the shift in sentiment, you were going through the decliners, Tim, and it's interesting to see most of the decliners were a lot of those defensive names that had been bid up, a lot of consumer staples, obviously healthcare, as well as some of those auto parts names. But then also the shift in sentiment to the upside, that's having a material effect as well for the IPO market. We're getting a headline right now that the fintech company Chime, which just a few weeks said it was going to postpone its IPO, now saying it's going forward. It made a full filing now with the to file on the NASDAQ. If I remember correctly, get my dates right, just maybe 3 weeks ago, it had actually said that it was not actually going to follow through with that, at least not anytime soon. But now apparently back in play here. So interesting shift in sentiment.
Yeah, Bloomberg pointing out kind of late last year that it had about a $25 billion valuation back in 2021. That was the peak of kind of the tech boom, and then that faded. So it'll be interesting to see as we get more details in terms of the financials on that one. In the meantime, and Romaine, this is for you. I know how you travel. You like to do this kind of stuff. If you're looking for personal chefs, hairstylists, trainers, tour operators.
Is this what you learned
in
anchoring with Romaine for a second year in a row at Milken?
Well, Airbnb apparently adding some luxury services. So they're looking to offer to pull in some more business. I think about $1 billion more in business, but 10 categories for in-home services.
Okay, so it's a services offering. It relaunched its Experiences tour booking product at an event in LA today. What it does is it has vetted providers. They offer 10 different categories of in-home services. Vetted,
so they're really checking to make sure those people are going to come and give Romaine a manicure.
I was going to say I can be a vetter of the personal chefs and just eat the food and say yay or nay on those. So personally cooked meals, prepared food items, full service catering, photography, spa treatments, massages, personal training, hair, makeup, and nail appointments. I guess, Scarlett, the idea is that you go to a destination, you're not just interested in going out, but having people sort of come to you and do these things.
Absolutely. If you're going to see fewer people travel because they're concerned about the economy, the solution is to raise ARPU, average revenue per user, and count on Romaine to get, spend more on services while he's there staying at a luxurious. I
would like to also point out, as somebody who got to see Carol's regimen every morning. I think she's the one who had the luxury stylist coming up to her room and helping her out.
Is that how
it takes a village? I'm just going to tell you.
Meanwhile, I just got up.
All right, very quickly here, there's a really good story on the Bloomberg.
15 miles to get to the Beverly Hilton, Scarlett.
Did you guys see the story about how rich New York City parents are being lured by elite UK boarding schools? A lot of them are being sold on this premise that for $10,000 more than what they're paying in New York, they can send their kids abroad and study at prep schools across the UK. A lot of them, of course, we're talking about folks in New York City, so they want to get away from the current political environment, climate, and put their kids in boarding school outside the U.S.
In the UK?
In the UK, yep. Yeah, UK countryside.
There's no issues going on in the UK.
I mean, I guess on a comparative level, and then you add on the plane fare and all that kind of stuff, then the Airbnb services, and all. I mean, that 10 grand is really looking at 20, guys. Let's be honest.
I was just gonna say, man, let's just spend more money. for education.
I don't think we were the target audience.
Definitely not. Definitely not. All right.
That reminds me, I need to write a check.
So maybe we are the target audience.
Hey, listen, they'll remind you. I'm just going to tell you.
They will
I win
remind you.
every time I write that check.
Yeah.
How many zeros?
All right. That is a wrap. Our cross-platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. Folks, we call it the closing bell. Alix is heading out. Scarlet and Romaine continuing over there on Bloomberg TV. And Tim and I continuing right here on Bloomberg Business Week Daily. We'll see you again. Same time, place tomorrow.